They were the picture-perfect family on screen, bringing warmth and laughter to millions. But behind the wholesome charm of 8 is Enough, the cast faced real-life struggles that took them down unexpected paths. Some battled personal demons, others endured heartbreaking accidents that changed their lives forever. Now, in 2025, where are they? Have they found peace, or are they still navigating the twists and turns of fate? Join us as we uncover the untold stories of the stars who once made America believe in the magic of family. Lonnie O'Grady, who portrayed Mary Bradford at the age of 23, brought a poised and studious calm to 8 is Enough. As the eldest daughter who often served as a surrogate mother figure. Off-screen, Lonnie struggled deeply with anxiety and panic disorders, which worsened after the show ended in 1981. Her attempts to transition into a music management career were hampered by addiction to prescription medications and long periods of institutionalization. She was briefly married to producer Don Derrico, but the union collapsed after just 2 years, citing her mental health struggles and substance dependence. They had one son, Taylor, whom she adored but struggled to care for during her most unstable years. Lonnie became estranged from much of her family and was in and out of treatment centers throughout the 1990s. She tragically died alone in her mobile home in Valencia, California, on September 25, 2001, from a drug overdose at just 46. Her death was ruled accidental, but many close to her described it as the culmination of decades of emotional torment. Her estate at the time of death was estimated to be worth only $60,000, largely comprised of residuals and a small life insurance policy. She is remembered as a bright talent dimmed far too soon. Susan Richardson, who played Susan Bradford at age 25, infused the series with a zesty charm as the feisty and humorous second daughter. Off-screen, Susan's post-show life became a swirl of instability. After the series ended, she battled typecasting and underwent major weight fluctuations due to illness and medication. She married construction worker Michael Verdon in 1981, and the couple had one daughter, Sarah, but the marriage was fraught with financial issues and ended in divorce by 1989. Susan later suffered a debilitating stroke and lost her home, ending up living in a trailer in rural Pennsylvania. Publicly candid about her mental health and physical ailments, she expressed regret about the missed opportunities and poor decisions that defined her later years. Once hailed as one of the brightest young stars of her generation, she now lives reclusively at age 73, surviving on Social Security and a small disability pension. Her estimated estate is under $25,000. She rarely gives interviews but remains proud of her work on 8 is Enough, though she has described the show's fame as both a blessing and a curse. Adam Rich, just 9 when he charmed America as Nicholas Bradford, brought innocence and mischief to 8 is Enough, in equal measure. His cherubic face made him an icon, but behind the scenes, Rich's life took a heartbreaking turn. After the series wrapped, he faced chronic depression and substance abuse, entering rehab several times throughout the 90s and early 2000s. He never married, citing his struggles with trust and intimacy, and had no children. Legal troubles mounted, including arrests for DUI and attempted burglary, and though he tried to stage a comeback in voice acting, the industry had moved on. He lived modestly in Los Angeles and was known to frequent recovery groups and volunteer with youth outreach, warning them against the pitfalls of child stardom. Tragically, he was found dead in his home on January 7, 2023, at the age of 54, due to an accidental fentanyl overdose. Rich died with few financial assets, his estate estimated at around $18,000. He left behind a small circle of friends and fans who remembered him for the light he brought during his short-lived fame. Diane Kay, who played Nancy Bradford at 23, turned heads as the fashionable and outspoken sister with a streak of defiance. While her portrayal won praise for balancing glamour with wit, Diane's acting prospects dwindled quickly after 8 is Enough ended. Despite landing roles in minor TV movies and one critically panned soap opera, she couldn't shake the Bradford identity. In 1983, she married cinematographer Alan Rothman, and they had twin daughters, Emily and Chloe. But the marriage dissolved in 1995 due to his infidelity and her growing dissatisfaction with life in the shadow of her past fame. She retreated from Hollywood and lived quietly in Arizona, raising her daughters and working as a community arts instructor. She later battled kidney disease and underwent multiple surgeries but maintained a positive public face. Now 71, she lives in assisted housing and is occasionally seen at fan conventions, her estate estimated around $100,000. Though time has mellowed her regrets, Diane remains nostalgic for the spotlight, often expressing that her role on the show was both her greatest joy and deepest curse. Betty Buckley, who portrayed Abby Bradford at age 29, brought grace and calm to the chaotic Bradford household as the family's stepmother. Abby was nurturing, measured, and a symbol of healing after the loss of the children's biological mother. Off-screen, Buckley's life unraveled in quiet sorrow. Married briefly in the early 80s to Broadway producer Philip Rayner, the marriage crumbled under the strain of infertility and artistic jealousy. She never remarried, and her years were marked by a series of short-lived relationships. She had no children, a regret she expressed candidly in later interviews. Estranged from her siblings and caring for ailing parents alone, Buckley's familial bonds frayed. Her career, though still intermittently active, never regained the momentum of her 8 is Enough fame. She endured 5 major tragedies, including the suicide of her nephew and a house fire in 2001 that destroyed her personal archives. Now 77, she lives in a modest New York apartment, teaching voice lessons to aspiring performers. Her estate is estimated at $1.3 million, mostly tied to royalties and residuals. Dick Van Patten was 49 when he took on the role of Tom Bradford, the lovable yet sometimes overwhelmed patriarch trying to keep order among his 8 children. On screen, he embodied wisdom and patience. Off-screen, life tested him. Married to actress Pat Van Patten for over 6 decades, their union was strained by his gambling addiction and emotional withdrawal after the show ended. Of their 3 sons, one struggled with substance abuse, and another became estranged over inheritance issues. After 8 is Enough, Van Patten found fewer roles, leading to a slow, humiliating decline. He opened a pet food business that faltered before finding niche success, but the scars of fading relevance lingered. He suffered a major stroke in 2006 and was in and out of care facilities until his death on June 23, 2015, at the age of 86, due to complications from diabetes. Despite these hardships, he was remembered by fans for his kindness. His estate was valued at $900,000, diminished after years of medical expenses and poor financial decisions. Connie Needham was just 18 when she took on the role of Elizabeth Bradford, the spirited, rebellious teen with a flair for drama and ambition. Her on-screen energy masked an intense vulnerability off-camera. After marrying her high school sweetheart, actor David Needham, in her early 20s, the marriage deteriorated after the birth of their second child, twin girls named Chloe and Clarissa, due to his growing alcoholism. The couple divorced in 1993. She moved away from acting after suffering from clinical depression and an eating disorder that began during the show's later seasons. Her daughter Chloe died of a fentanyl overdose in 2012, sending Connie into a spiral of isolation and grief. She later worked anonymously as a dance teacher in a small California town, rarely appearing in public. Now 65, she lives modestly with her sister, her estate estimated at $400,000. The shadows of early fame still haunt her, especially during interviews where she avoids discussing the show that defined and destroyed her youth. Laurie Walters, who was 30 when she portrayed Joni Bradford, the free-spirited, artistic soul of the family, brought authenticity and wit to the role. A painter and dreamer, Joni often challenged conventions, traits Laurie herself shared. After the series ended, Walters found it increasingly difficult to land meaningful roles, typecast as the bohemian sister. Her brief marriage to photographer Daniel Carmichael ended in scandal when he was arrested for embezzlement. They had one child, a son named Silas, who became estranged after being incarcerated for drug trafficking. Her parents died within months of each other in the early 90s, compounding her descent into alcoholism. Walters attempted a return to the arts but was never fully welcomed back. She lived in semi-obscurity, relying on meager royalties and community art teaching gigs. Now 80, she resides in a small care facility near Sacramento, battling memory loss. Her estate is estimated at just $200,000, including a modest pension and the value of her few remaining oil paintings. Grant Gedive, who portrayed David Bradford in 8 is Enough, was 25 when he assumed the role of the mature, dependable eldest son, often acting as a surrogate parent to his younger siblings after their mother's death. His character's leadership and quiet strength made him a favorite among viewers. Off-screen, Gedive faced a less settled path. After the show, he struggled to find roles that matched his early success, bouncing between small TV parts and voiceover gigs. He married his college sweetheart, Linda Carter, not the actress, but the union frayed under financial strain and emotional distance. They divorced in 1991 after having 3 children, Matthew, Rachel, and Elias, all of whom became estranged from him in adulthood. Gedive suffered a series of personal losses, including the suicide of his younger brother and a near-fatal car crash in 2004. Though he appeared upbeat in public, he privately battled depression and anxiety, exacerbated by the pressures of early fame. He currently lives alone in Bend, Oregon, with modest means and occasional income from fan conventions and real estate investments. At 72, his net worth is estimated at $350,000, with most assets tied up in his rural property. Once a household name, he now lives in near obscurity, surviving on memories and the few fans who still remember the Bradford family. Willie Ames was only 17 when he portrayed Tommy Bradford, the wisecracking and hot-tempered middle son who constantly tested boundaries in 8 is Enough. Ames brought a roguish charm to the role, but his post-show life was marred by chaos. After the series ended, he experienced a brief resurgence with Charles in charge, yet his fame waned quickly. He married 3 times, the first to actress Vicki Weatherman, ending in a bitter divorce, the second to makeup artist Teresa Warner, with whom he had a son, Christopher, who later battled addiction, and the third to Malo Upton, which lasted longer but was riddled with financial woes. Ames filed for bankruptcy twice, lived briefly in his car, and struggled with alcoholism and drug use for years. His downward spiral included arrests and a failed suicide attempt in 2009. He eventually found solace working as a cruise director and authoring a faith-based memoir. Now 65, Ames is sober and remarried, though estranged from his son. His estimated estate is around $150,000, primarily from royalties and motivational speaking engagements. He lives modestly in Missouri, often reflecting on both the fame that brought him joy and the collapse that nearly ended him. Jennifer Darling was 24 when she played Gwen, a smart, grounded young woman who occasionally appeared as a family friend and love interest in 8 is Enough. Though her character was minor, Darling stood out with her warmth and humor. Her post-series life, however, was marked by a quiet unraveling. She transitioned into voice acting, achieving modest success with roles in the Transformers and Beauty and the Beast, but rarely received the credit or recognition she craved. She married stage actor Charles Hill, and they had one daughter, Ava, but the marriage ended after Hill left her for a younger actress. Ava grew up distant, eventually cutting ties over years of emotional neglect. After losing both parents and a brother to cancer within 5 years, Darling withdrew from public life. Though she never remarried, she had several intense but failed relationships. In her 60s, she was diagnosed with early-onset Parkinson's, which accelerated her retirement. Now 73, she lives alone in a small assisted living facility in Burbank. Her net worth is estimated at $80,000, dwindled from legal fees and medical expenses. Once hopeful and ambitious, Darling now spends her days surrounded by silent mementos of a career that almost, but never quite, was. Joan Prather, 27 when she portrayed Janet Bradford, the sweet-natured girlfriend and eventual wife of David Bradford, was radiant and full of promise. Her character's gentle optimism contrasted sharply with Prather's turbulent reality. Following her departure from 8 is Enough, Prather struggled to find consistent work, appearing in low-budget films and quickly becoming typecast. She married cinematographer Douglas Wells, and the couple had 2 children, Isla and Daniel, but the marriage was short-lived and scarred by Wells' infidelities and substance abuse. After their bitter divorce, Prather was briefly involved in the Church of Scientology, leading to strained relationships with friends and family. She suffered a breakdown in 1996 and was briefly institutionalized. Her children chose to live with their father, and contact became sporadic. In 2008, she was arrested during a road rage incident that gained tabloid attention, marking the last time she was widely seen in public. Now 76, Prather lives in near seclusion in Santa Fe, New Mexico, relying on Social Security and sporadic royalties. Her estate is valued at around $70,000, including a small home left to her by her mother. Her career, once bright with potential, ended in isolation, regret, and a profound sense of what might have been. Brian Patrick Clark, who portrayed Merle, the Pearl, Stockwell in 8 is Enough, was just 25 when he stepped into the role of the charming and self-assured baseball player who captured Susan Bradford's heart. His character was known for his easy charisma and athletic drive, bringing energy to the later seasons of the show. In real life, Clark's career never quite soared after the series ended. He struggled with typecasting and found himself relegated to sporadic guest roles and voiceover work. He married Olympian Kathy Johnson in 1988, and while the union appeared happy from the outside, it was fraught with infidelity and long separations due to their respective careers. They had 2 children, Sean and Brendan, but the family fractured under pressure, with Brendan becoming estranged from his father after a public falling out in 2007. Clark's later years were marked by battles with depression and financial instability, having invested poorly in a series of failed wellness startups. Despite this, he resides quietly in a modest Florida home, largely disconnected from Hollywood. At 73, Clark's estimated estate is valued around $450,000, much of it tied to his pension and residuals from syndication rights. Ralph Macchio, 19 when he portrayed Jeremy Andretti in 8 is Enough, brought depth to the troubled nephew of Abby who sought healing in the chaotic Bradford household. Jeremy's arc touched viewers with its vulnerability and emotional rawness, and Macchio's gentle intensity won him recognition. While The Karate Kid launched him into stardom, Macchio's later career dipped into obscurity for decades. Typecast and dismissed by producers, he spent much of the 1990s auditioning in vain, eventually turning to theater for fulfillment. Married to Phyllis Fierro since 1987, the marriage endured several long separations due to his work abroad and emotional distance. They had 2 children, Julia and Daniel, but Macchio's devotion to reviving his career often left him absent from their formative years. A 2002 near-fatal car accident led to chronic back pain and years of rehabilitation. Though Cobra Kai resurrected his fame, it also reopened old emotional wounds. Now 63, Macchio lives a quieter life in New York. His estate is estimated at $4 million, mostly from his revived TV earnings and vintage memorabilia auctions. Lane Binkley, who played the understated but impactful Joe Bradley at age 27, offered a grounded, intelligent presence in the later arcs of 8 is Enough. Her character, often a voice of reason, resonated with audiences seeking quiet strength amidst the Bradford's chaos. Unfortunately, Binkley's career never took off after the series ended. Frustrated by the industry's focus on youth and looks, she left Hollywood in the early 1980s after several pilots failed to materialize. She married screenwriter Gary Donnell in 1985, and the relationship, initially passionate, descended into dysfunction marked by Donald's alcohol abuse and emotional volatility. They divorced in 1993 after the tragic loss of their only daughter, Emily, to leukemia at age 7. That heartbreak defined Binkley's later years. She became reclusive, publishing only occasional essays on grief and resilience under a pseudonym. Now 75, she lives in rural Oregon, rarely seen in public. Her estate is modest, estimated at around $200,000, primarily in property and a small inheritance. Despite it all, she remains remembered by fans for her grace, both on and off screen. Who is your favorite character from 8 is Enough? How does it feel knowing that some of the actors are no longer with us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on future uploads. Thank you for your support.